A local mayor is set to testify in the corruption trial of Virginia's former first couple, Bob and Maureen McDonnell. Virginia Beach Mayor Will Sessoms will take the stand at the federal courthouse in Richmond today. The big question for him, did the former governor and his wife properly report loans? Now, they're both facing criminal charges after prosecutors say they used their political position to help the CEO of a dietary supplements company promote his products. Our Andy Fox spoke to the mayor last week about why he was issued a subpoena. And Andy is in Richmond now, following the developments of the trial.
Don, the deliberations today really got off to a slow start because our second juror was dismissed. It was really an interesting scene. The judge pulls everyone into the back into a private meeting, and when they come out, the governor, you're the courtroom, comes out and he's just sitting there like this for about 5 minutes, almost as if he were praying. We don't know exactly what he was doing, but then everyone is brought back into that back room, and the judge then comes out and it is announced that the second juror has indeed been dismissed. We have received no other details on that, but we were there today when the governor and former First Lady showed up for court. Governor Bob McDonnell will hear testimony about the Johnny Williams loans of $120,000. He did not report those loans on required bank disclosure forms, which led to the wire fraud indictments. Felonies. His good friend and Virginia Beach Mayor Will Sessoms will testify as to whether those loans should be disclosed.
I feel good every day, the day closer to us being done.
Governor, your good friend Will Sessoms will testify today. What will he say about your loans?
I really can't comment on any evidence.
That the Johnny Williams loans were not declared on your forms. Arriving separately, always, Maureen McDonnell, the target of most of the prosecution's attention. She arrives with attorneys and never with family members. Ms. McDonnell, I have to ask you, do you feel like a lone wolf in all of this? Do you feel any support at all? Is there a feeling that you are not being treated right, Ms. McDonnell? Are you getting any support from your family? Former State Attorney General and Johnny Williams attorney Jerry Kilgore said on the stand the quickest way to get the state research funding for Williams and Nattablock was for Governor McDonnell to put the funding in the state budget, which not only never happened, was never ever taken seriously. And this is attorney Trey Kelleter with Van Devender and Black. Trey, what are you looking for today from the testimony involving Will Sessoms? What are we looking for on that? What's the big deal about the loans?
Well, the key to the loans there in terms of his testimony would show whether or not there's a connection in the governor's mind between the loans and what he ultimately did for Johnny Williams. Was he hiding something, essentially?
Right. That by law you have to mention these loans, you have to mention your liabilities, but on these very important bank documents he failed to do that.
Well, what they're looking for in this case is not whether or not he's violating particular federal laws on disclosure, it's whether or not you're essentially trying to draw a connection between what Williams undoubtedly gave the McDonnells and what he ultimately did for them officially, and whether or not there was a connection in the governor's mind between those two acts. And generally, the prosecutor would look to see whether or not a person has this intent to hide something. So it's not whether or not he violated a particular federal statute on a report. It's if you're tending not to want to disclose something, then you're showing a guilty conscience. So now, I don't know what the testimony will be, but that's essentially what the prosecution's looking for. Was there something in the governor's mind that made him aware that he shouldn't be disclosing this?
Trey, thank you very much. Appreciate it. He's an attorney that's kind of just taking it in here. And before throwing it back, a very interesting thing happened. They had a researcher up from VCU, Nattablock. Johnny Williams was trying to push his Nattablock with him. And they said, how long? Johnny said, how long do you have for this meeting? He says, 30 minutes. He says, well, you're going to need 45 because I'm going to take you basically to the governor's mansion to meet the First Lady then, Maureen McDonnell. And when they showed up, there was actually a reception going on for the movie Lincoln, and Steven Spielberg was there, and the researcher got to meet Steven Spielberg. And when the prosecutor said, well, what did you think about that? He says, well, when you wake up in the morning, you never know what's going to happen with your day. And that was just an interesting aside. Don, a lot of things going on, a lot of moving parts, very interesting trial going on. We'll have an update coming up in our 150 minutes of news. Back to you.
Andy Fox in Richmond, and still at least 3 to 4 more weeks of testimony to go.